Welcome to Investomania, brother.
Boom! Apple became the first stock in the United States stock market history to reach a $1 trillion market cap. Just 1 month later, today, on September 4th, Amazon, at least momentarily, passed that same threshold. I don't know where it'll be at the end of the day, but at least as of the time of recording this, it had momentarily passed that $1 trillion threshold. The question is, how do we play this $1 trillion trend? Today, we aren't talking about fundamentals or technical analysis. We're talking about the media and investor psychology. If you keep up on stock news or watch CNBC, you were more than aware that Apple was approaching $1 trillion. Even if you don't own Apple, even if you're not interested in Apple, you were bound to have heard it's approaching $1 trillion. It's getting closer to $1 trillion. Similarly, you were going to hear that about Amazon. It's approaching $1 trillion. And which one's going to get there first, Amazon or Apple? Here are the titles of some recent articles. I did list quite a few of these, but I'm just trying to get a point across. So here we go. Here's the titles. Amazon is about to become America's second $1 trillion company. Analysts now project Amazon to top $1 trillion in market cap. 3 factors propelling Amazon towards a $1 trillion market cap. Amazon racing to $1 trillion market cap. Amazon now closing in on a $1 trillion market cap. Amazon poised to hit $1 trillion market cap. Amazon inches closer to $1 trillion market cap. Amazon closes in on Apple in race to $1 trillion market cap. The pursuit of $1 trillion. Amazon closes in on Apple. Amazon leads towards a $1 trillion market cap. Why Amazon will be the next $1 trillion company. Apple is almost a $1 trillion company, but watch out for Amazon. Amazon, Apple, Google, the race. Wait, I'm sorry, I read that one wrong. Apple, Amazon, Google, the race to be a $1 trillion company. Apple, Amazon, and Alphabet in $1 trillion race. Race to $1 trillion. Join the race to $1 trillion stocks. Amazon leading the race to $1 trillion market cap. Will Amazon or Apple become the first $1 trillion company? Apple and Amazon lead the race towards $1 trillion market value. Apple and Amazon lead the pack to $1 trillion market value. Amazon, Google, and Microsoft are close to joining Apple in $1 trillion club. Okay, now I could keep going. I mean, there are a plethora of these articles, but I trust I've gotten my point across with at least that many. All right, I'm not trying to waste time, but I am trying to get a point across. These aren't just random articles on some dude's blog, by the way. Many of these articles are from major newspapers, mainstream media, popular investing sites, and even some international media. Here are some examples of some of the articles I just mentioned, where they're from. The New York Times, the New York Post, the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Fortune, USA Today, The Business Insider, CNBC, CNN, CBS News, Fox Business, Bloomberg, The Street, Seeking Alpha, The Motley Fool, Investopedia, TechCrunch, The Verge, Variety, The Japan Times, France 24, and the Daily Mail, which is a major British newspaper. So why does this matter? Why should we pay attention to this as an investor? It's simple. While fundamentals are extremely important long-term, they have almost nothing to do with how a stock moves on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, withstanding quarterly reports and significant public announcements, that is. What drives a stock in the short term are a variety of factors, which can include macroeconomics, institutional investors, analysts, short covering, high-frequency trading, noise traders, the time of the year, taxes, taxes, profit-taking, bond and interest rates, the housing market, the jobs report, gold prices, oil prices, heck, in 2017, even cryptocurrency captured some money which would have otherwise been going into the stock market, propelling stocks higher. At the end of the day, we need to remember the stock market is a simple supply and demand machine. A given stock has a set amount of supply. Now, for the time being, let's just ignore secondary offerings, insider, selling, employee stock options, yada, yada, yada. Get the point. There's a certain number of shares available to the public. That's called the float. And for the purpose of this video, we're going to consider that number static. It's probably not going to change for major companies that are approaching $1 trillion in the next couple of weeks or months. The supply is static. So now we need to look at what can increase or decrease demand. What increases demand at its most basic level? Well, let's kind of go away from stocks for a moment. How do you sell anything? Just whatever. How do you sell something? You have to market it. What does that really mean? What does marketing it mean? It means exposure. People cannot buy something if they are not aware that it exists. The first step to selling anything is creating awareness. So, what happens when, figuratively speaking, overnight, the nationwide media in many forms, all the way from the New York Times and the talking heads on CNBC down to the little guys writing their blogs and talking on Twitter, start talking about one or two specific companies and how they might hit $1 trillion. It creates a heck of a lot of exposure for those stated companies. And what happens when virtually every single one of those articles states that a $1 trillion market cap is already a foregone conclusion? Did you hear the extremely biased, positive, sensationalist language used in these articles? The race to $1 trillion? Which company will get to $1 trillion first? Do you notice an issue with these titles? There is a presupposition that either or both of the companies will get to $1 trillion market cap in the first place. As an investor, you cannot be subject to that low level of thinking, but we also have to understand that the mass population is subject to that type of thinking. They're not going to be able to put, the 2 points together and be like, well, there's a presupposition in that. I don't really like how this title is written. It's sensationalist. They're using language. Oh, God, it's the race to it. Nothing's racing to nothing, right? But when you have many, many titles nationwide saying there's a race and people start thinking there's a race, all of a sudden there kind of is. Therefore, if you want to capitalize on the $1 trillion frenzy, here is what I would recommend. Apple's already there. Amazon is already there. And by the way, I think those are both still buys. I don't have any qualms with either of those companies. I don't own Apple at this point in time, but I do currently, I'm long Amazon. However, it's already gotten to $1 trillion, or at least it's very, very close. It's had a good last kind of month or two as it's been pushing towards that $1 trillion mark, but at least now that particular driver is going to end very soon. The third and fourth largest market cap companies in the world currently are Microsoft, with a market cap of $862 billion, and Alphabet, formerly known as Google, with a market cap of $857 billion. So very, very close for all intensive purposes, and for the purposes of writing articles, they're basically tied. They're head-to-head on their race to $1 trillion. For reference, Amazon was at $860 billion as recently as July 31st. That's a 16% gain in just a tad over a month. Now, I don't think that either Microsoft or Google will move that quickly. They just don't have the same growth rate. I mean, the fundamental growth rate that Amazon does. But I do think that these stocks will be propelled higher at an increased speed by the next round of these articles that are bound to come in. I can already see the titles now. Microsoft and Google race to $1 trillion. Microsoft inches closer to $1 trillion market cap. Will Google or Microsoft join the $1 trillion club next? For the record, personally, I think Microsoft will get there first, as that company is running on all cylinders right now. But I say that both Microsoft and Google are a buy.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.